I'm back with another amazing dish. A dish that everyone loves, but not everyone has the patience to make. A dish that requires a whole lot of love. That dish is none other than the beautiful, gorgeous, and beloved Tabrizi meatballs. Let's make this delicious dish together. Hello my dear friends. I'm Ashraf, and welcome to my little kitchen. First of all, I want to congratulate all of you on Nowruz, the Persian New Year. I hope you've started the year off strong, and that it continues to be a wonderful one. A year full of health, happiness, joy, laughter, and of course pockets full of money. Today, I'm making a dish that I believe is made differently in every city of Iran, with its own twist. The version I'm making today is closest to Koofteh Tabrizi, that is Tabrizi meatballs. I'm using this specific recipe. Of course, we need ground meat for the meatballs. I'm using about 1 kilo of ground beef, which is a bit more than usual. If you prefer less meat, that's totally fine. You can reduce the amount of meat and use more split peas and rice instead. I use boiled eggs for the filling, and since I'm planning to make 4 meatballs, I've prepared 4 boiled eggs. I also add walnuts and barberries to the filling, in whatever amount we like. This part is completely optional. And of course, we absolutely need tomato paste for the meatball sauce. I use quite a bit of onion. Onion goes into both the meatball sauce and the meatball mixture. You can reduce the amount of onion if you like. As you can see here, I have about 1 pint of cooked rice. And when I say cooked, I mean fully cooked and ready to be served. I also took 1 cup of split peas. For those of you outside Iran, you can use quick cooking split peas. They're soft and break down easily, which I think is perfect for meatballs. Here's a mix of dried herbs I use. I recommend not using fresh herbs for your meatballs. Even though they taste great, fresh herbs release water, which can cause your meatballs to fall apart. Fresh herbs are full of moisture, and that moisture is what prevents the meatball mixture from sticking together properly. The dried herbs I use are a mix of tarragon, parsley, and savory. Some people add basil as well. But for meatballs we prefer the flavor of tarragon and savory. For spices, I use a standard blend of 7 spices, along with turmeric, salt, and black pepper. And like with every Iranian dish, you'll need oil, especially for frying the onions. So first, I'm going to put the eggs on to boil, really hard-boiled. And I'll also start cooking the split peas. The rice is already cooked and ready. Because meatballs need to be kneaded really well, I use a stand mixer. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using a larger amount of meat, so I'll need more onions. Right now I plan to use 4 small onions. But as you can see, mine are pretty small. If you're using larger onions, 2 might be enough. If you're using less meat, adjust the onions accordingly. Just make sure the onion is fully grated, no chunks. We only want the pulp for the meatballs. If not, what could happen? The meatballs could fall apart. And that's no good at all. So I'm going to grate the onions now. And if I can, I'll use a cheesecloth to squeeze out the juice. Only the dry onion pulp will go into the meatball mix. In the meantime, I'll keep the meat in the fridge while the eggs and split peas cook. Now I'm going to add the ingredients to the mixer bowl. I also need to grab the right tool to mix the meat. Let's get started and prep the onions. I'm going to fry the rest of the onions too. As you can see, I've brought the onions here to put into the food processor, so they get chopped exactly the way I need them. Then I'll transfer them to a cheesecloth, strain them, and squeeze out the liquid to dry the pulp completely. I've taken the onions out of the food processor and put them in a strainer to press out as much moisture as possible, so we get nice dry onion pulp. This is exactly what we need when working with meatball mixtures. It's just like when you make kebab. You want to squeeze out all that onion juice. One more thing about the tomato paste. If you want your meatball sauce to be thicker and less watery, you can add some pureed tomatoes, fresh or frozen, after frying the paste in onions. Just mix them in well. Or you can use canned or frozen tomato puree. It's a great trick to give the meatball sauce a richer texture and flavor. That was just a tip I didn't want to forget. As you can see, the onion pulp is now dry and ready. I'm going to set it aside to mix in with the other ingredients. The split peas are now nicely softened and fully cooked, even a bit mashed, but I'm still going to run them through the food processor to make them even smoother. Then I'll combine them with the rest of the ingredients. I've mashed them a bit, but not so much that the split peas are invisible. You still want to see them a little. Now I'll do the same with the rice and herbs, and mix them with the meat. The secret to perfect meatballs is making sure every ingredient you add is dry. Even a little bit of moisture in any of the ingredients can cause the meatballs to fall apart. That's why you have to be very careful. Okay, I've mixed together the herbs, rice, and split peas. As you can see, the mixture is dry. Now it's time to add the spices. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of the 7-spice blend, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Now I'll add the ground meat, and this is where the kneading begins. We need to knead the mixture very well. I'll start by mixing it by hand a bit. Then I'll use my stand mixer. Okay, now I'm going to lift the mixer arm. Let's get everything kneaded thoroughly. Then I'll check it by hand to see if the consistency is just right. In the meantime, let's prepare the fried onions. Then we'll get started on the meatball sauce. Now that the meat and the other ingredients are mixed together, I'm adding the dry onion pulp and letting it mix again. I'll scrape down the sides too, because sometimes the mixture sticks to the edges of the bowl. We want to make sure everything gets kneaded together evenly. Now we're preparing the meatball sauce. I chopped 3 onions as I mentioned earlier, not too fine. I didn't mash these like the ones for the meat mixture. I just chopped them. Now I'll wait for the oil to heat up. For the meatball sauce, of course, you need spices, salt, turmeric, pepper, and so on. In addition to tomato paste, I'm using 2 cups of tomato puree. You can make tomato puree with tomatoes that are about to expire. Just freeze them and use them later in your stews. They're delicious. Or you can use canned tomato puree. It's tasty too. You could also grate fresh tomatoes and use them instead. When the sauce is a bit thicker, it tastes much better in my opinion, but it all depends on your personal preference. Now I'm adding spices to the hot onions. 7-spice mix, black pepper and salt as needed. I've also seen some people use smoked paprika. I personally don't think it changes the flavor much, but if you like it, go for it. When I was a kid in Iran, my mom never used paprika in her meatballs. But now looking at different cuisines, some do. We're going to sauté the paste with the onions to remove the raw taste. Sauté it for a few minutes. Then add tomato sauce and hot water, and we'll be ready for the meatballs. The tomato paste is now lightly sautéed. I'm adding tomato puree now. Now I'm going to add some water and let it come to a boil. Now I'm going to make the meatballs. The meat mixture is ready. Take as much of the meatball mixture as you'd like into your hand, just like this. Of course, what makes Tabrizi meatballs beautiful, unique, and charming is their size. Next, make a little well in the center, like shaping a round loaf of bread, and add whatever filling you like inside. I add a boiled egg, a bit of barberry, and some walnuts. Now we press and shape this deliciousness into a nice round ball, just like you see here. Try to press it really well. As much as you can. You want it to be completely compressed and consistent. There shouldn't be any air pockets inside. Just like this. You're shaping a beautiful meatball. Let's move on to the next one. You can also put dried plums inside your meatballs. Put in whatever you like. You can use just barberries, or skip the egg completely. That part is totally up to you. Just make sure the egg is nicely centered inside the meatball. Here's the next beautiful meatball. See? You really want the consistency of your meat and ingredients to be like this. So the split peas are visible, the herbs are visible, and that little naughty barberry peeking out from the center is clearly there. Also, the texture of the rice inside the meatball is so tasty when you bite into it. Alright my dears, as you can see, I made 4 of my meatballs with eggs. But halfway through, I realized, it's a good thing I didn't boil 6 eggs, because I remembered my dear friend who definitely wants to eat these meatballs, but doesn't like anything inside them. So, I made 2 plain meatballs without eggs and 4 stuffed ones with eggs. Let's go place these beauties in the pot together. Here's the last one, just as beautiful as the rest. Alright, as you can see, the meatball sauce has been boiling nicely. Now I want to pour the rest of the barberries into the sauce. Some people like to add pomegranate paste or dried plums to the sauce as well, because it gives the broth a richer, smoother, and more delicious flavor. Now I've added the barberries. I think they'll add a really delicious touch. Next, I'll turn the heat to medium and let the meatballs cook. As I mentioned earlier, I also need to remember exactly which corner of the pot I placed the 2 meatballs without eggs, so I don't get them mixed up later. Otherwise, we'd have to open them all to find out which ones are plain. Although I think those 2 are slightly smaller, Since they don't have eggs inside, they're a bit more compact. And remember, meat shrinks as it cooks in water, so they'll get even smaller. Just like this. Here goes the last meatball. Now I'll put the lid on the pot. The heat should be low. These need to cook slowly. No playing around, no stirring, let them be. Okay, I'll spoon a little of the sauce over the meatballs. Then I'll lower the heat and let them gently simmer. For now, all the meatballs are sitting politely, everyone in their place. They should cook at this temperature for at least 30 to 40 minutes. As I mentioned before, don't turn the heat up. They should simmer slowly over low heat. Alright my dears, before I tell you the meatballs are ready, and we arrive at the best part, the tasting, I have to say, don't get tired. Because cooking meatballs creates just as many dirty dishes as a party for 20 people. And yep, we have to wash them all. Wow! So many dishes. But when all is said and done, and we finally reach that delicious moment and taste the result, all the tiredness melts away. Let's go enjoy this deliciousness together. We've now reached the beautiful moment of tasting. The smell of these meatballs is absolutely amazing. You can already see how they turned out. Let's see how they taste. First, I want to cut one open and check out the egg in the middle. Here we go. There's the walnut and barberry we added to the filling. Now I'm going to take a bite and tell you exactly how it tastes. Of course, you can enjoy this delicious dish with pickles, pickled garlic, mixed pickles, yogurt, fresh herbs, whatever you like. I've seen different families serve it in their own way, with their own favorite side dishes. Right now, I'm going to take a bite with some pickles, because later, I need to warm up some bread and go all in. Perfect. It's exactly how it should be. I just wish there was a way for all of us to taste it together. If you haven't already, please check out my other videos too. And if you make this recipe, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how your meatballs turned out. Please don't forget to like and share the videos. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, I hope you have a wonderful year ahead. Until the next delicious dish, goodbye.